Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First up, a few announcements. One, we have, I believe, 3 checks over $25,000 pursuant to the village purchasing policy. Please be advised that Mayor Smith will be presenting with a check over $25,000 for Landscape View Inc., part of the Hudson View Park flood control capital budget. That's $70,456.65. There's another one for $99,000, which is to King's Capital Construction Corp., which is part of the Riverview Road Booster Pump project. And the last is for $211,367.55, which is for the Sanitation Equipment Corporation for a sanitation truck. This came out of the capital budget. Next, a very important announcement for Oktoberfest is scheduled for Saturday, September 28th, 2019, from noon to 9 p.m. in Matheson Park. I think we have, Rick, are we up to, how many food trucks do we have now? 10. 10 food trucks, 6 bands. At least. Yeah, maybe 7 bands, 6 or 7 bands, 10 food trucks, beer, hopefully wine, non-alcoholic drinks, and hopefully great weather in the park. So hopefully we'll see a lot of people out on September 28th at noon. Next is, I'd like to make a motion to open a public hearing to consider a local law amending the fee schedule in the village code with respect to street opening permits for utilities, and that's scheduled for Monday, October 7th, 2019 at 7 p.m. in Village Hall. I can get a second for that. Second. All in favor? Aye. Do you want an explanation on that one, maybe?
Just, yeah, real brief. We have been working with Con Edison primarily, since they're the main opener of the streets, to streamline the process, to have the fees more correctly reflect the work that they're doing, and really overall just streamline things. So we'll go through that in some detail, obviously, at the public hearing, but that's the gist of the law. Yep.
Yeah, and looking at it, is it, I assume that the fees are going up, or is it just...
Yeah.
Next up is correspondence. The first is from Allison O'Connor. Dear members, can we please readdress the local laws for gas-powered leaf blowers during the summer months? They simply have no place in our village during summer months. Landscapers continue to use them during the summer months. Ironically, when there are no leaves, making noise and pollution in the village insufferable, even during July and August. The local laws are not followed or enforced. I believe even Sleepy Hollow, Tarrytown, and other villages have an outright ban during the summer months. Please, can we be forward thinking about this and follow the lead of the school district? It's bad enough that many residents can barely go outside in their yards during cleanup months, let alone other quiet months. Thank you, Allison O'Connor, 56 West Clinton Avenue. The next one is from Caesar Manfredi. Mayor and trustees, it's very reasonable, accepted direction the village is going to ban gasoline leaf blowers. However, there could be one exception in the interest of public safety that would allow gasoline-driven blowers for snow removal. In looking at $300 battery-driven blower, it appears that from comments that the battery lasts between 30 minutes and takes about 1 hour more to recharge. Having a spare battery still leaves downtime. The alternative without such an exception would be gasoline-operated bigger engines of our snow blowers. The use of gasoline and the noise level from the snow blowers would be even greater than that of gas-powered leaf blowers, and they're much slower at getting the job done. There's over 1 mile of sidewalk here and 94 units that are entitled to safe sidewalks. Please consider if the requested exemption may be included. Thank you, Caesar Manfredi, President Half Moon South Co-op. Next is from Walter Montgomery. This one was not at our, this was not included in our last meeting, or was it?
It was not on the agenda last. No, but we did
mention the.
It was received before the work session, not specifically read, but we considered the comments that were in there.
This one's kind of short, so maybe I'll read this one. It's kind of indicative of some of the others. As you know, the residents of Strawberry Lane, including my wife Marion Gruber and me, have submitted a petition on zoning changes that would affect our street and our neighborhood. Because both of my out-of-town absences and responsibilities at Abbott House, together with my wife's professional work, have kept us from meetings of the Board of Trustees in this matter, I'm writing to emphasize our strong support for the petition as a whole in each of its points. Our advocacy reflects the serious and deep concern among all residents of Strawberry Lane over the implications of rezoning for the safety and quality of life there. Particularly, I've discussed in the past with Larry Schaffler, our street already faces serious traffic safety problems that we wish the village to address. The contemplated rezoning does nothing to further that objective, and indeed is likely to exacerbate the dangers. Therefore, we reiterate our unqualified hope the Board of Trustees will move favorably on the petition. Thank you for consideration from one who certainly respects what you do, the rest of the board, and Mr. Schauffler dedicate to our village. I do empathize with all of you having some idea of the conflicting pressures you must face in making decisions, and that you unfailingly try to act in the best interest of the community. Sincerely, Walter Montgomery. The next one is from Leo McLaughlin. I think we actually we didn't specifically go over some of the the specifics in his email or his letter, but we definitely discussed many of the issues at our last work session, which Mr. McLaughlin also attended. So with your permission, I won't read the whole thing. I don't know if maybe you'd like to summarize it instead, or if you're kind of satisfied with kind of where we're going and discussing them and coming back with a new proposal on September 16th. Anyway.
Just
Sure.
reiterate my concern that Strawberry Lane, both the upper and lower ends are very much a residential community district, and so certain uses, in particular I'm pointing out the hotel use, is really inappropriate in that space. Thank you for your concern.
Thanks very much. And the next one is from Taylor Palmer of Cody Fetter. They actually presented it at our last meeting, so I'm not going to be reading that one. It's also
50 pages.
they were obviously paid by the hour. And then the last one is from Ann Altman. It's encouraging that on August 5th, the village board unanimously affirmed its commitment to pursue climate smart community certification. Climate science is troubling, so we can't stop there. Action is required from everyone to reduce pollution by every means necessary. This action doesn't have to be complicated or expensive, but it has to start now, and we need your help. Westchester received another F in air quality by the American Lung Association. A major source of local air pollution is industrial landscaping practices. Conventional commercial landscaping techniques, mow and blow, also destroy the topsoil, water, soundscape, and include a staggering amount of dangerous pesticides. These pollutants know no property lines, and the increase in commercially contracted services has reached epidemic levels. In Irvington, landscaping freedom, mostly by machinists, not gardeners, comes before the health and safety of the public. Why? Take a densely populated Spiro Park. This neighborhood is adjacent to Dowsing Elementary School and home to over 50 children in a 4-block radius. We really want to be spewing carbon in the air at 85 to 100 decibels. Most small lots border or within runoff of Barney Brook, a tributary to Bluff Hudson River. Significant reductions in our carbon footprint can be reached simply by not doing something, and every time a yard is tended without industrial landscaping practices, the whole community is better for it. Allowing crews with highway-sized commercial gas-powered leaf blowers and mowers, often without personal safety equipment in residential neighborhoods, is reckless. Any use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides is irresponsible. Good neighbors can be part of the solution and not be part of the pollution by replacing conventional plastic yard management for more humane and sustainable stewardship. We decrease carbon and increase the health of the community in an instant. Does the board want to remember the one that kicked the climate emergency initiative down the road with the next generation, or do you want to be known as neighbors, the owners of the house with the yellow pesticide sign, the perfect front lawn, a public warning of its toxicity to neighborhood adults and pets? Dynamic changes in thinking and behavior should start with you, our neighbors and elected representatives. It starts with working together to make Irvington a beautiful, healthy place to live and work and truly be clean and green. So happy to read about Brendan Zelnick's continued efforts to help the monarchs. Perhaps share in your mayor's desk communication about more healthy yards and ways in which you and the board are personally taking climate action so you can help inspire others. The power is yours. Thank you. Sincerely, Ann Altman, 7 Brook Place. And that's it for correspondence, so I will open it up for public comment that isn't related to the North Broadway mixed-use district local law. We have no chance at the end, so if you change your mind, you can always come back later. And actually, I'm going to move up the approval of a filming permit for Woodridge Productions, Inc. to this part of the meeting to make 2 people in the audience happy. I don't know if you guys want to come up and kind of explain the schedule. Larry, you kind of briefly went over with me, but I think there was a little clarification still as well.
Yeah, so, I mean, the primary days there's one day of filming, which is on the 19th, right?
Yes.
So that's this Thursday.
Yes.
And there's a little discrepancy in the times on some of what was written and what was emailed, so maybe you can just outline what the sequence of timing is, and at each location.
Absolutely.
That would be helpful for them.
Hello.
So my name's Tom Scooch. I'm the location manager for the show. It's called Blacklist with Woodridge Productions. Yeah, we're requesting permission to film this Thursday on 120 Sycamore, a private home, between 7 a.m. and I'd say 11 a.m. the latest. And then we would move over to the Octagon House, which is the main location that brings us to Irvington. And we'll film at the Octagon House. It's just on the property and inside the home till approximately 8 p.m. I'd say.
Okay, and then what about setup time? Is there, in terms
Yeah,
of
so-
getting scheduled, staged and ready to go that morning? And
Yes, so we're renting out, as we typically do in these towns, we'll rent out private lots to park our campers and large vehicles, and that is at the Immaculate Church, right?
Yeah.
At the Immaculate Church. We would park our campers. They would land at they land as early as 5:30 in the morning. We always, keep voices down. I'm not sure the proximity to other homes, but we'd be well aware what time it is. And then we would take the equipment with stake bed vehicles over to the home. So we keep our large trucks in the lot and then go over to the home. And then there's some prep time the day before at each location. That's a smaller crew of like 10 people inside the homes. So that's a very low presence.
Right. And we would have, just for the board's information, we would have 2 officers scheduled to be with the filming operation, so both at Sycamore and then move over to West Clinton.
And I would just comment that Sycamore is a very residential neighborhood.
Yes.
Immaculate Conception Church is on the same road as the schools, and 7, 8 o'clock is when people are leaving to drive up and down. So just the road needs to be cleared.
Absolutely.
I'm sure our officers will help with that. But
Yes.
So to keep that in mind.
Absolutely.
And most of the filming's inside the homes?
Yeah, there's some exterior filming. The one on Sycamore, it's at the front door. It's the, classic detectives interviewing somebody at their front door, and then they step into the foyer. So we will look a little bit across the street with the assistance of the officers. We are aware of the time, so obviously no school buses would ever be interfered with. If we're looking directly across the street, the things we're trying to avoid is like a UPS truck parks directly across the street in our shots, little things like that. So if there's any traffic control, it's very minor. We do understand the time of day that is, so.
And the Octagon houses, they have kind of, they're going to be off.
We're well into their property outside on the lawn. There's 2 characters only, and then they go inside the house. That's the rest of it.
And there will likely be some vehicles on the street, not the large semis, but
The stake bed,
stake
yes.
bed trucks. They'll be on the street. West Clinton is wide enough, but again, the officers are there, to assist with that. Sycamore is not as wide, but it's also not as heavily traveled, but the officers will be there to help control that.
And we're also working with a couple homes where we rent out people's driveways sometimes. There's more we could get, off the street though, the better.
Caesar had a question? Sorry.
Yeah, did you coordinate with Con Ed? Con Ed had half of West Clinton closed.
No, I didn't know. I don't know about
Just
that.
thought, the
Okay.
whole street was closed down. and
Oh, really?
Service connection.
Okay. No,
I don't know what they're scheduled.
I was not aware of that, but thank you.
We'll get you in touch with the contact there.
Yeah, tomorrow we have our scheduled technical scouts, so we'll look into that.
I was a little confused on the end time here, because I'm just reading the time of shoot that we have in front of us. So the latest in any location is what time?
The times, since sometimes we gave this last week, so they're a little up in the air. Tomorrow we get our firm times,
Right.
but because this shoots day 1, so, apologies for the short turnaround, but it happens to be the first day of our 9-day schedule because of actor availability and such. But basically, it's 120 Sycamore, it's approximately 7 to 11. And then
Daytime, 7-11
7 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Right.
And then 11 a.m. till roughly 8 p.m. at night. Then we
8
bring the 8 p.m. at the Octagon House, and then we bring the equipment back over to the base camp, load the trucks, and and leave. I would say all said and done, we should be out by 9 out of the base camp.
Okay, that's just different from what it says here. That's what I thought you said. I'm just-
So for purposes of the resolution.
Yeah, it's
if you
gotta reflect
Go
that.
ahead. We'll do, it's, the window of time on that day of filming is 6:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. Is that
Yeah.
comfortable enough?
Yes.
Okay.
And if it's okay, first thing tomorrow morning, I can just call the bell, confirm that. Because it's first day, we have a quick turnaround, so I'm trying to get as much information to you as quickly as possible.
Okay.
But it's right in that range, absolutely.
Okay.
And do all the neighbors on Sycamore, you'll be informing them that this is going on?
Yes, I
Yes, it's
believe.
not a very long street. so-
Yeah,
Okay.
we put out letters, and then we had an assistant in the area today, so, well, actually, the past couple of days, they've been knocking on doors and seeing who they could speak with, and if not, if we haven't spoken with anyone, then we've just put a letter in their mailbox, just notifying them.
Okay.
Any other questions? Resolved to approve a filming permit for Woodridge Productions for filming 45 West Clinton Avenue and 120 Sycamore Lane in Irvington on September 18, 2019, from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Prep day. September 19, 2019, from 6:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. Film day. And September 20th, 2019, from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Wrap day with a fee of $3,000. I'll make the motion. Run out of second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Good luck.
Thank
You
you.
have good weather.
Thanks.
Next up, the consent agenda. Anyone have any questions on any of these? I'd like to thank Jerry Malata for his service to the Irvington Fire Department. Otherwise, I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Can I get a second? All in favor? Thank you. Continuation of a public hearing to consider the local law amending the Irvington zoning code to create the North Broadway mixed-use district. See note. Note, the Board of Trustees expects to release a revised draft of the North Broadway mixed-use district local law during the week of September 16, 2019. As a result, there will be no discussions about the local law pending the release of the new draft. The public hearing remains open and we continue the regular meeting of October 7, 2019. I think if someone showed up tonight to talk about something that was really a burning issue to them, we're happy to hear them. But, you know, we've obviously for, I don't know how many meetings now, we've taken feedback. We've tried to, at our last work session, tried to process a lot of that, took some straw polls among the board, and are now working on another draft. So once we have another draft, we'll keep it open for a couple meetings to get more comments on the new draft. Hopefully we've, you know, found some of that balance that we've been talking about. And we'll go from there. And is there anything else to add, Mary Ann?
No, just that you'll have a new draft tomorrow.
Okay, I don't know if anyone else has anything they want to say about it, but, you know, this is kind of the way the process has to work. We have to take all the input, try to distill it as we understand, and then you can tell us what we missed or what we're getting close to but aren't there yet. And it's a very iterative process. So it continues. This is the first big milestone. Is kind of the, I guess since May was when we opened the public hearing. So, you know, all summer and obviously in the late spring, we were taking comments, and now we can see where we are. So that's all I can say about that, I guess. Larry, did you want to talk about the approval of the supplemental agreement for Main Street pedestrian improvements?
Was there no one else that?
Did anybody else want to say anything about the North Broadway charter before we move on?
That's why I'm here.
Okay.
But it sounds like you went really fast.
Well, we're going to have a whole new draft of it in a week, but if you want to say something now, feel free to come on.
Sure, I actually do. Thank
Sure.
you.
Sure.
Sorry.
No problem.
You guys moved fast through 1 through 6, didn't you?
Yes.
I'm Jennifer Friedman. I was here in the late spring / early summer, and I'm a resident of Riverview Road, up near the, oh my God, which direction is that? The
Western.
back, thank you, the back area, and the,
Eastern, yeah.
yes,
The opposite.
the eastern edge of up the hill of where these properties.
So past the exit from Abbott House? Or?
Correct. And after having attended, I think maybe at least one, if not 2 meetings, and I did speak briefly previously, I did actually speak with my relative who is a mayor of a small town in Westchester. I spoke with a land use attorney. I spoke with an attorney who actually represents hotels, and wanted to hear from people what's reasonable, what's not reasonable, what do you think about this zoning change. And everyone agreed that it was a good thing for Irvington to be proactive, to try to set something up so that we're not always on the reactive end, which I do appreciate and think is a smart idea as well. But I did have a few points of feedback that related to the issues that I am concerned about, and I thought I would just reiterate a position that I have on some of these issues,
Sure.
which I now feel I have some confirmation are not just my own, personal view, but that have some relevance in the marketplace of people who know about such things. So one of the issues that I had asked about previously had to do with the setback provision for properties abutting the properties that are potentially for sale. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that there's a 50-foot setback provision in the last draft that was circulated. My proposal would be that be expanded to be a 100-foot setback, particularly for those properties such as my own and others where there has not ever been any building on the border. It's problematic for us to envision, even 50 feet, which is not that far from our property line, there being building. And so I'm proposing that a reasonable amount of space would be 100 feet. I don't know a lot about screening, but I did want to just reiterate the importance of screening, and that mature trees be allowed to remain, and that there be effective screening from abutting properties into, the possibly, new construction that might be created. I wanted to reiterate that the view shed needs to be protected from all angles, including Riverview Road and the homes upslope from the development. So not just my own, which directly abuts the property, but those that are across the street from me and kind of up the hill that do look down onto what could be developed property. That view shed should be protected. The idea of a conservation easement was raised at the last hearing, and I'd like to reiterate that the existing wooded buffer area, that there should be consideration of the possibility of a conservation easement, which I think would be very appealing to not just property owners like myself, but there's a lot of concern about green space in Irvington by people with an environmental viewpoint, which I think that would be something that would be appreciated. Regarding my guy I spoke with who's in the hotel business, he did, and actually my relative who is in Rybrook, where the Rytown Hilton is, because of the possibility of hotel development, both of them pointed out that noise is an issue, and that both during times of day, that outdoor events, and at night, outdoor events in particular create noise that isn't always foreseen. So that there should be some consideration of, someone has a lovely wedding at a small boutique hotel and they're playing music outside in the summer. We would all hear that on Riverview Road up and down and, in the abutting very, very residential areas. So I think the idea of an indoor, when you say restaurant, people think indoor, but that there could really be quite a bit of noise pollution that could be created by anything that had outdoor evening events and the like. And that there's also visual pollution that can come with any new development in terms of light where outdoor lights are on, parking area lights are on, that might not currently create a glow in that area, but that could create a glow. So that's all I got. Thank you very much
Great.
for providing us the opportunity to continue to give feedback.
Sure. Yeah, we have probably another couple meetings at least, so thank you very much. Anybody else want to say anything before we move on to the next? All right. Laura, do you want to?
Yeah, so the next two items are really one conversation, even though they're two separate agreements. With the Station Road sidewalk project and coupled with the Main Street pedestrian crossing or handicap accessibility ramps on Main Street, those two projects combined are federal projects, and the federal process is to generate a contract for the design services only initially, and that contract was done, a year and a half ago. And now that the design is advancing along and, the state is getting ready to approve that, they are doing a supplemental agreement to that original agreement that you approved, and this appropriates the remaining amount on the contract, on the grant, for the construction. So that's what this supplemental agreement accomplishes. It's a two-step process in the eyes of the state.
State or federal?
Well, the state administers it on behalf of the
okay,
federal
okay.
government.
Why does it read as if Irving, unless I'm misreading it, Irving is committing to putting up the entire cost of the project? In each instance, and that's what it...
Yes, if there's, yes, as
as
with our
opposed to
other...
The 30% match or whatever it was?
Right. In other words, if basically what they're saying is if we go over the costs on these projects, we have to make up the difference. So, and that was exactly the same for the last federal contract that we had, which is the Safe Routes to School project. So the way that we can become comfortable with that is that we will have two separate engineers' estimates on the costs that are that are projected for these projects, and so far the projections look okay. So, but the reality is that if they do exceed what the full projected amount is, we have to make up the difference.
That wasn't exactly my question. My question is, it looks like we're, unless I'm misreading, and I could have, but both of them look like...
Mark, I can't hear you, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm sorry. Unless I'm misreading, it looks like we're committing to the entire amount in the resolutions, meaning, let me show you, let me read one to you, because, yeah, so you look at one of them and they say,
That's the exact amount that they're on the board. I agree with you, Mark.
right,
That's the way it reads.
it reads, like, I'm looking at page 9, and it says we're resolved the sum of $913,100 is appropriated from the general fund, and then you look down at the notes of the spreadsheet that's attached, and it looks like, well, these numbers don't even add up, because there's 1,113,000, and then 850,000. So, and the village is on call for 263,100. So I don't know how any of those numbers match up together. It doesn't seem to make. Seems like we're covering more than our part of it by a significant amount, if I'm reading the spreadsheet correctly.
The way I read that one is it's more than the sum of the total amount of that. Because you add up our 263,100 and you add 913,100, it's more than 1,113,100.
Yeah, and so the other one has the same, is I think a little less egregious in terms of the unknown extra amount, but it's still got the same issue where the numbers don't seem to. First, the numbers seem to indicate that we're covering the federal grant rate basis of 120,000, and plus our 30,000, which is 150,000. Now let's see what it says in this case. Sorry,
That one is just that one kind of makes sense because it was 120 is the total federal amount, which I don't know why it makes it, but at least the number is like
The numbers make sense, but here we're covering 120,000, which doesn't seem to be the amount that we're on the hook for. So that's why I'm a little,
I think that reflects the fact that we need to advance the money before we get grant funding reimbursed. It's a reimbursement grant. So they need to know,
that's all you had to say.
they need to know that, right.
That explains it.
They need to know that we will have the money available to put out ahead of time in order to complete the project and
I
then get
didn't realize there was
reimbursed.
a reimbursement too, wasn't
is.
an upfront?
No, it's not.
They give us the money at the end of the project. as
Correct.
opposed to-
Or in increments as we go along, but yes.
All right,
That makes more sense then.
but then the numbers still don't add up on number 2, I don't think, unless Brian and I were both hallucinating.
Yeah, I thought, I think that, should that 913,100 be 850,000? Maybe I'm missing something here. Because when I do it's,
No, I see what you mean.
I think we're on the hook for the 263,100, that's our portion. And it looks like they're 850,000. So I'm not sure, but it looks like that's such an exact number, it looks like maybe
There's something else in
It
there.
was, yeah, this is,
It's 200,000 up.
Yeah, I think maybe it was just a computational error, or,
no, I don't think so. I think that the 200 was appropriated in the previous, in the original agreement. If you
oh,
look at
that's on the
the,
top, very top.
yeah, that was the amount of the original agreement.
Design,
Right, for design.
for design purposes.
Oh, I see it, 913.
Yep.
So this resolution covers the difference
The
essentially.
unallocated amount, yeah.
Right.
Okay, that explains it as well, Larry.
Thank you.
For what it's worth, the numbers came from our engineers, but then again, numbers and engineers don't always mix, but that really is information.
Sorry.
I didn't say anything about retired engineers, I said active engineers.
It's perfectly clear now, I think.
Semi-retired.
Okay, no, so yeah,
The gist of
you're,
it is,
yes.
as it says in our resolution, that we will pay 100% of the federal and non-federal share of the cost.
Up front.
Yes, upfront, yes,
Yes.
yes. But then the reimbursement rate is outlined in the agreement, so yeah.
But practically speaking, is there any, is there anything, any way that once we sign the contracts that, somehow we wouldn't be reimbursed or?
Well, I mean,
Possible with the government.
yeah, I mean, anything's possible, but this is federal funding that has been previously approved. This is not, that's been previously approved and allocated to the state of New York. State of New York is now allocating it to us.
Okay, so that, it's already taken that first step, that it's not going to be canceled by the.
Well, I mean, we don't wait till the very end to get reimbursement, so maybe that'll help, but
Right.
the scenarios are really,
How many federal programs have we done? We did the Safe Routes to Schools, certainly others over
yeah,
years.
not many, but that's certainly the
Yeah.
best example.
And they paid.
Yes.
There's a lot of paperwork, but.
Oh, yeah.
This is a question that if it takes a long time, you don't need to answer it now, but there's all this, it says non-Marchicelli to Marchicelli. What are non-Marchicelli and Marchicelli? Has something to do with the type of funds or the source of them?
Yeah, I think Marchicelli funds are state funds, not federal funds. So those are not the funds that we're taking advantage of here.
I see.
And I don't know who Marchicelli is. Probably was the state senator that sponsored the original program.
Chet can look it up on his phone. Okay,
Everybody, more comfortable now?
all right.
So there's two separate resolutions, just so you know. Yeah.
We'll see if I can read the second one better than the first one. Whereas a project for the Village of Irvington, Main Street pedestrian improvements, Village of Irvington, Westchester County, pin 8761, spot 72, the project, is eligible for funding under Title 23 U.S. Code as amended, that calls for the apportionment of the cost of such program to be borne at the ratio of 80% federal funds and 20% non-federal funds. And whereas the Village of Irvington desires to advance the project by making a commitment of 100% of the non-federal share of the cost of construction and construction inspection work, now therefore, the Village of Irvington Board duly convened does hereby resolve The Dearborn Village Board hereby approves the above subject project, and it's hereby further resolved that the Irvington Village Board hereby authorizes the Village of Irvington to pay, in the first instance, 100% of the federal and non-federal share of the cost of construction and construction inspection work for the project, or portion thereof, and is further resolved that the sum of $120,000 is hereby appropriated from the general fund surplus and made available to cover the cost of participation in the above phase of the project. And it is further resolved that the event of the full federal and non-federal share cost of the project exceeds the amount appropriated above, the Irvington Village Board shall convene as soon as possible to appropriate said excess amount immediately upon the notification by the village administrator thereof. And it is resolved that the village administrator of the Village of Irvington be and is hereby authorized to execute all necessary agreements, certifications, or reimbursement requests for federal aid and/or applicable Marchicelli aid on behalf of the Village of Irvington with the New York State Department of Transportation in connection with the advancement or approval of the project, and providing for the administration of the project and the municipality's first instance funding of project costs and permanent funding of the local share of federal aid and state aid eligible project costs and all project costs within appropriations, therefore, that are not so eligible. And it is further resolved that in addition to the village administrator, the following municipal titles, Commissioner of Public Works, Village Mayor, Village Engineer, Village Comptroller, Village Treasurer, are also hereby authorized to execute any necessary agreements or certifications on behalf of the municipality sponsor with the New York State Department of Transportation in connection with the advancement of approval of the project identified in the state and local agreement. Resolved that a certified copy of this resolution be filed with the New York State Commissioner of Transportation by the attaching it to any necessary agreement in connection with the project, and is further resolved, this resolution shall take effect immediately. I'll make a motion if I can get a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Could you read it again?
I think I can skip certain parts.
Maybe you should just say the same thing, but just change the numbers.
I think, well, we could change the first part slightly different.
80, there's right.
Yeah, whereas a project of the Village of Irvington Main Street, and this one's called authorized implementation and funding for the first instance, 100% of federal aid and state Marchicelli program aid eligible costs of the transportation federal aid project and improving funds thereof. Whereas a project for the Village of Irvington Main Street and Station Road pedestrian improvements, Village of Irvington, Westchester County, FIN 8761-587, the project, is eligible for funding under Title 23 U.S. Code as amended that calls for the apportionment of the costs. So this program be borne at a ratio of 77% federal funds and 23% non-federal funds. So that was one slight difference.
Yes.
Then I believe the next one is resolved that the sum of $913,100 is hereby appropriated from the general surplus and made available to cover the cost of participation in the above phase of the project.
That's probably it.
And I think that's it. Resolved, this resolution shall take effect immediately. I'll make a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Good luck with the administration of that. Next, is reports of boards, standing committees, and officers. Trustee liaison reports.
Yeah, I wanted to say, and I won't say everything about this, but there was a very good demo of landscaper and homeowner electric yard equipment, blowers, mowers, etc., at the Nature Center on Saturday. And in part of the process, I was talking to Joe, and I was talking to the folks over from the grounds management at the school district, and it became obvious that we should have another batch of love them and leave them signs made up. So I'm working with Larry on that, and the message.
Which signs?
Love them and leave them.
Oh,
Leaf
okay.
mulching.
You
But-
need more?
Yeah, there are no more, I don't think, in the village offices at least.
I have a few.
And the message has been updated now to talk about being climate smart and about using electric yard equipment, battery operated yard equipment. So it'd be more on, I thought that would be a very good up there, especially near the Nature Center, where they can actually talk about using the equipment, and the signs remind people that that kind of equipment's in use. What else? There's something else coming up in terms of a public action on Friday, and I'm just looking to see, in fact, if someone's going to mention that as the action on Friday, so I'll leave that for you guys to talk about. And the other thing finally is, I sent around to you, Brian, and to Larry and the rest, a little graphic about light leaf blower courtesy, and I thought maybe we could get that out through the mayor's desk or something. Can you send a graphic out attached to something?
Sure.
Yeah. Just because the season is upon us.
Each of fall.
Yeah.
That's it.
That is it for now.
Doc?
Echoing Mark, I just wanted to compliment both the Rec and Parks Department and the school district for their presence and encouragement in using battery-operated equipment. And echoing the mayor, Rocktoberfest is scheduled for Saturday, September 28th, Matheson Park, noon to 10. The Recreation and Parks Advisory Committee will hold their regular monthly meeting on Wednesday night, September 18th, 7 p.m. at the Senior Center. RPAC has also announced that they will hold a public meeting on Wednesday, October 2nd at 7 p.m. at the Senior Center regarding the rules and future use of Matheson Park. All interested parties are encouraged to attend.
Can you repeat that the second time so
Yes.
people actually hear it?
A public meeting on Wednesday, October 2nd at 7 p.m. in the Senior Center regarding rules and future use of Matheson Park. The Irvington Woods Committee will hold their monthly meeting this Thursday, September 19th, 7 p.m. at the O'Hara Nature Center. Congratulations to Eagle Scout candidate Walter Freed for his project in the Irvington Woods Park. Walter made improvements to the cross-country running area and the pathway around Marshall's Pond. He will continue to help by creating several benches to place near the pond. Special thanks to IWC member Dave Zweibel, who I will thank, for providing Walter with guidance on the project. The IS Executive Board meets tomorrow, September 17th, 8 a.m. in the Senior Center. Hold on, there's one more thing here. I'll have more coming up on my phone in a second, so I'll pass on to Connie
Well,
and
just
I'll come back.
I'll fill for you for a second. I just want to thank the Recreation Department and Parks Department for, helping to organize another great's not the right word, but a very appropriate 9/11 ceremony. I'd like to thank the volunteer ambulance corps and fire department, as well as our police department for participating as well. It was another good remembrance of those terrible events of 18 years ago. So. Anything, Doc?
Yeah, I've got it. Save these dates. Fall is in the air, which means time to plan and be part of special events. The Hayride will be Saturday, October 24th. Halloween Parade, Sunday, October 27th. Senior Citizen O'Hara Foundation Senior Citizen Thanksgiving Lunch is Tuesday, November 26th. Thanksgiving Day Dinner Delivery is Thursday, November 28th. And the Peter Oley Turkey Trot is Sunday, November 24th. Thank you.
I actually had a question about Rocktoberfest. Can you explain the role of, are there going to be committee people there at tables explaining different roles that committees play in the village? It seems like I read some notice about that. Is
Well,
that?
I know that there was a public invitation to any village group that wanted to
Okay.
set up a table. They were offered, obviously at no cost, but the requirement to have someone present at the table, and they would be supplied with all
Okay.
those supplies.
Okay, so that's any,
Anyone
it's
interested.
not just a committee of the village, it's any appropriate group that might be
Yeah, I think
Girl
non-commercial
Scouts,
group.
Boy
Right, as long as
Scouts.
it's non-commercial.
Right, not commercial, maybe not religious, I'm not sure all that, but, so if
Right, so
people
just
come.
reach out to Joe Archino. and
Okay,
he'll
so
set
if
that
people
up.
call Joe and they're interested in doing that, let's do it,
Is that right?
mayor's permission.
Yeah.
All right, I have a notice from the Highway Department. I imagine many people have noticed that there's watering being done to the trees and the flower boxes along Main Street. That's being done by that's under the Highway Department. So I've seen people on Main Street. I'm sure many people have. It's a great, obviously, way to keep those alive. Highway Department also assisted the Rec and Parks Department at the Nature Center That was mostly to do with parking. They've been assisting the contractors with the North Broadway and Heritage Hill Crosswalk project. I guess that's all finished, seems to be.
Yes.
Yes. Installed a new ADA-compliant sidewalk on the south side of Harriman Road between Park Road and the school bus stop on the west side of Cedar Ridge. And installed new crosswalk and a new landing and bench on the north side. Oh, that's great. They were painting guide rails at various locations. They repaired the Belgian block curbs at various locations in Legend Hollow, painting lines and sidewalks, cleaning catch basins, and filling potholes. And then the water department, as usual, they are always reading water meters and right now they're doing fall maintenance, working on the hydrant maintenance list, hydrant flushing. I think people got notices about hydrant flushing. And the contractor is finishing gas work and installing culvert pieces on the Hudson View Park project. Everybody's probably driven by that. And that's all I have today.
Great.
The fire department, as of their last meeting on August 22nd, there were 27 calls in August to that point, and 229 calls year to date. Happy to report that ladder 36 is back in service, although engine 178 is going out for repair. Working on getting a new boiler, hose and pump testing completed, all successfully passed. And update, they, not just pending approval, but there is approval to replace the chief's 2007 car. This month's training included responding to hospital emergencies, and they've been working with the Irvington Police Department on critical response scenarios, example, active shooter. We did not get the port security boat grant this year, but we'll try again next year. And the two upcoming dates, the inspection will be on October 5th, which means the cars, the fire equipment will all be out front at 6:30. And everybody's favorite, firefighter Phil, will be at Dow's Lane School on 10/22. For the village court, from the period 8/1 to 9/13, vehicle and traffic, 81 charges received, 96 disposed, VO3 received, 10 disposed, PL2 received, 7 disposed, Civ 1 received, 1 disposed, for a total amount remitted to the state controller of $19,263.40. Most of the report from the library this month is the building and repair and restoration of the mold, the leaks, whatever that's been ongoing. And the library board was very appreciative of the fact that the public has clearly been exposed to a great deal of noise and disruption over the summer, but everybody's been very understanding, and it hasn't affected visits to the library at all, apparently. You may notice from the outside, window repairs are being completed, and that is looking very well. Workforce Housing Group will be doing repriming and repainting, repriming and repainting of railings. 20th anniversary of the library being housed in the burning building will be in January 2020. So there will definitely going to be a celebration of that event. Okay, that's it.
Great. Village administrator report.
Nothing tonight.
Village clerk treasurer's report. Village attorney's report. Public comment. Have anything?
Oh, am I up?
Yes. Please.
Sorry. I arrived late, I apologize. Sorry.
No worries. They're all the time.
Thank you. As you know, I sent you the email regarding the leaf blower issue during the summer. I just have a small statement I'd like to just share with you.
What's your name? I'm sorry.
Alison O'Connor, I live on West Clinton Avenue.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Myself and many village residents are extremely concerned about the endless four-season use of gas-powered leaf blowers within our village, especially during the summer months. I don't need to go into depth about the air and noise pollution that comes from this equipment, their polluting effects versus other gas-powered yard equipment, and the quality of life issues that many village residents have, since you're already aware of this. Currently, gas-powered leaf blowers are banned during the summer months in the village, with the exception of the use of one gas-powered leaf blower for half an hour per week. While many homeowners and companies are aware of the summer law and follow it, Many are either not aware of the current law or choose to ignore it and are running multiple leaf blowers for longer than half an hour each week. The current law is not being enforced by the village, causing many residents to confront neighbours or report problems to the police. Hardly a good way to build a sense of community. I do understand the demands by certain homeowners to have their property perfectly manicured 365 days a year, which then puts pressure upon companies to do the clean-up. However, summer landscaping practices are becoming absurd and common sense is going out of the window. 4 weeks ago, I had to stop workers on a neighbouring property that were playing ping pong with 4 leaves on the ground and 2 gas-powered leaf blowers. 2 weeks ago, I saw a DPW employee on Main Street blowing 10 leaves and a lot of dust around with his leaf blower. Electrical leaf blowers provide no respite either. A resident of South Buckhout Street is beside herself because her new able-bodied neighbour runs his leaf blower 7 days a week to clear the debris from his 10-square-foot patio. I have with me a summary of leaf blower laws from surrounding towns that I can share with you. Irvington lies, it's somewhat subjective, but Irvington lies 13th out of 19th on this list. Yes, we can gently persuade homeowners to change their mindset about landscaping practices, but I think it's up to the village to lead the way and put in place practical common sense laws by completely banning the use of GLBs during the summer months, removal of the exception and greater enforcement of these laws. Why not even ban all leaf blowers during the summer months and follow the leads of towns like Hastings and Rye? Why can't Irvington be number 1 on this list? Homeowners with large properties, places such as Ardsley Country Club and other properties will simply have to adapt. This past summer, I was in Phillips Manor and I noticed that were yard signs strategically placed throughout the village informing residents and workers about the summer leaf blower ban. I do believe that if Irvington were also willing to do that, you would see more compliance with the law. As the residents of the village gear up for a beautiful fall season but have to grapple with the endless drone and pollution from GLBs, I ask you to give us at least 1 season without them, and let's save the leaf blowers for when there are actually leaves on the ground. Please consider this petition signed by 129 village residents in supporting a complete summer ban. Thank you.
You should probably the clerk.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
A copy of the law, the original laws.
I'm not sure. Any other public comment?
I'm still Kathy Kaufman, 28 North Ecker Street, Irvington. Thanks for an informative hearing. I wanted to just ask Janice a point of information about the disposal of cases. The information you read off, is that available publicly? Can I look that up on the website?
I'll find out. It's a report that's prepared that I can present in public, but I'll see if it's available publicly.
That would be great. I would be interested in historical information of that nature. I wanted to reiterate and support what Allison just said about leaf blowers. I actually also support a complete ban during the summer. I do think that using the law's differential treatment of gas-powered versus electric during the summer has created perhaps more ambiguity. I've spoken to a lot of people, and I understand that in the fall there is a more complex issue and more pressure to use various kinds of leaf cleanup. But in the summer, I do see people continue to use gas-powered leaf blowers, and I don't see, it's just not evident to me how it's useful. I also wanted to mention that I've spoken to some contractors and who have made the argument that that it would be too costly for their customers or that it would be increase their business costs. And as somebody who comes from a family that is entirely populated by entrepreneurs, there's not a single person in my family that doesn't own a small business apart from myself. I can say that I don't find the rationale regarding cost, based on cost, convincing. I think that when you describe the problem of, often when you hear entrepreneurs complain about the cost of regulation, they're often referring to differential costs or uneven costs. But in this case, we have a level playing field. Every service provider is going to face the same costs. So their competitive edge will remain the same. Every single person in the landscaping business will have to rise or fall together in their creativity and ability to respond to the new environment. And in that case, I spoke to a lot of people in my family who run small service type businesses, and everybody said, what's the difference? We're all going to be competing using the same equipment, and it's going to impact perhaps the cost that we have to pass on to consumers. But the only way that that's going to affect the pie, it's going to affect the whole market equally. And I actually find that rings hollow for me, the argument that it's going to impact their business model in such a way that they cannot possibly respond effectively. So I want to just, I don't know if, Mark, if you were looking at me, but there is a climate strike this Friday that is, and I don't know if that's what you were referring to.
That's what I was referring
to. In New York
City. Maybe to someone else to, I thought maybe Ann was going to mention it. So.
Okay, I'll let someone else mention it. I'm definitely not a spokesperson for the climate strike, although I am going. And it's going to be an amazing event. It's at Foley Square at noon, and Greta Thunberg, who's a kind of climate crusader, is going to be there, and a lot of young people will be coming out, including young people from Irvington. Thanks.
So I was just hoping maybe Ann could take a minute to talk about a local event for those that can't get down to the city.
Okay, great.
Hi, Ann Chavy Holmes, 22 South Ferris, and thank you very much, Mayor and Board, for giving me a minute here, and thank you to Kathy for bringing up about the climate strike as well. And we will be having an event, thank you, Mark, for bringing that up, here in Irvington. We already have spoken with the police and with Brenda about having a very small, peaceful, we hope it's not going to be too small, but peaceful and very orderly gathering to express support for the global concern about climate. We're very proud of this village. This village is taking strong action. The commitment to the certification as a climate smart community is really profound. That's not a small thing. That's a big commitment, and we're very proud of Irvington for doing it. And but we do want to make a statement because young people today need to know that the older generations are caring, committed, and aware of the fear that they are feeling. And I say that because the high school students, a lot of high school students have come to the Green Policy Task Force over the last couple of years and expressed this concern and gotten involved with us, as you know. So thank you very much. That'll be 11 to 1 on Friday, and we'll just be outside in the Village Plaza, right out front of the Village Hall, and the police are aware, and Brenda is notifying all the staff in addition to us notifying you. I'd just like to also make a statement about the leaf blower proposed complete ban in the summer of gas-powered leaf blowers that Allison has put together and presented the petition of 120 people. This board and administration have shown great skill with the very unavoidable realities of being a small and intimate community where people's needs rub against each other. That's what happens with noise, with traffic, with parking. I've watched this board deal with it all, and leaf blowers has been one of the most contentious, as you've put a lot of time into it already. And I appreciate that, and I respect all the work that's already gone into this. But this past summer, I did begin to feel that unfortunately, we're not quite done yet with leaf blowers, and all up and down the river towns, all the villages are similarly facing a lot of friction and contention about leaf blowers. And I think that Allison's proposal might make it a little bit, might take down the tension around it a little bit, because at least there won't be that half hour, but how many half hours are we talking about, question that happens with a very nuanced requirement, like a half an hour a week limit. You know, to just have a complete ban. I mean, Hastings, New Rochelle, Newcastle, Rye, and Larchmont all have complete bans on everything, gas and electric. We're only asking the ban on the gas-powered right now, but I think it will be a lot clearer and easier for landscapers to obey, because it won't be so nuanced and detailed. So I thank you for all your efforts on this hard issue, and encourage you to continue on to get this a little bit more in place before, as we saw this past Saturday at the demonstration, that eventually the electric machines are going to be, you know, adequate to the task. Right now, it seems that they don't seem to be, the staff, the village staff, doesn't seem to feel that they're quite up to snuff. But they will be eventually. That was expressed by the staff of our village, as well as by the people who were selling the equipment. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Good evening, Cesar Manfredi, president of Half Moon South Co-op, 94 units. We have no problem with the gasoline ban in the summertime. We're gradually switching to electric. Some of our hedge cutters are now electric. We have interchangeable batteries, so we're moving in that direction. And I support the efforts to go no gas blowers in the summertime. But if you go any further, my letter, as you read, we really need the exception in the wintertime for snow removal. It takes us about a half hour to blow the snow off, and checking with people who've already tried to use the electric in the wintertime to blow snow, it just doesn't do the job. You get an inch of snow and the gas really has a lot more velocity coming out to blow the snow. It's a matter of public safety, and I just want to make sure that we're okay with most of it, in fact, almost all of it, except for wintertime use for snow removal. Thank you.
Caesar, I had a quick question for you. At what point do you cut over from a blower to from a handheld leaf blower to an actual snow blower?
Well, if it's overnight, you get about 4 or 5 inches. You can't just blow that. Then we bring out the snow blowers. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I said in the letter, if we can't use the leaf blower to clear the half an inch of flurry, we have to bring out the larger snow blowers. And it takes a lot longer to do it, because the men can just walk along and blow the snow with the leaf blower. And the snow blowers have their own speed. They just sort of chug along at whatever speed which is a lot slower, and doesn't cover the whole sidewalk. We have 5-foot sidewalks, and we have 30-inch snow blowers, so you don't get the whole sidewalk with a snow blower. So it's much more efficient, much faster, and easier for the men to come out and use the gas blower in the wintertime.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other public comment? Please.
Hi, I'm Ann Altman, Brook Place. I had my letter read tonight, obviously, so I don't have to repeat that, but when we're talking about a matter of public safety, like Mr. Manfredi was just talking about, I do have a problem with that, because there's nothing safe about a gas leaf blower. So when you're talking about a half an inch of snow, and we can't use a broom or a shovel, we have to take out a gas leaf blower. So 30 minutes of gas leaf blowing is 40 cars idling for an hour. I don't know how that's safe. I mean, it's science. It's just a fact that these machines are two-stroke and highly polluting and really, really loud. So a lot of children are leaf blower level. A lot of children presumably live there. I can tell you today at Dow's Lane Elementary, there's a manse behind the playground and lacrosse field that their children apparently don't go to Irvington schools, and maybe they work during the day, so they're not home. But we all the little kids at Dow's Lane got to enjoy their landscaping today, which was an hour and a half with 3 or 4 gas leaf blowers and a push mower, a huge walk-behind blower and a ride-on mower. So if I actually took video and I had a decibel reader, it would be a highly unpleasant place to play. But this is how our children are being raised in this town. This is what they hear all the time. So I'd just like you to consider, those of you who are not home today, what it sounds like in this village, and it's appalling. It's appalling. So presumably nobody is around in the day, and maybe that's the next thing that I do, is I just make a movie and you can all hear it, and then decide if it's a beautiful place or not. Thank you.
Caesar, you want to go up?
Caesar Manfredi again. Please understand that we have over 1.5 miles of sidewalk, and we do have to worry about trip and fall or slip and fall in the wintertime. I'd rather a half hour of somebody going with a leaf blower than having some of our elderly people, which we have many at Half Moon South, falling on an unclear sidewalk with snow. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hello. David Zweibel, 76 Greenway. I would like to support Allison's letter and very detailed statement about gas leaf blowers, and I would also like to support Ann Altman's position on the negative effects of gas-powered leaf blowers. I would also like to commend what happened, was it yesterday or Saturday at the village at the ONC with the demonstration of the electric equipment. I did have a conversation there with the one of the head people from Westchester Tool Rental who was sponsoring it, and his comment to me was that he felt very strongly that if there was a contractor who was all electric, he would be overwhelmed with business. That they regularly get comments from homeowners that where can we find a contractor that does this? He says the demand is there, and it's not about cost. It's the demand is there, homeowners want it. In terms of Caesar's comment about electric not being strong enough to do certain things, that is true, but the technology is moving as we speak. What the village bought for the electric equipment was not available a year ago. It's really been upgraded, and that's what the people at Westchester Tool were saying, is it's a very short time until the all-electric will be comparable for contractor use on larger parcels. So it is a little discouraging to understand from Allison that, you know, Irvington is number 13 or whatever it is on the list, as opposed to closer to the top of what our regulations are or not. And I would just like to encourage the forward thinking of this board to move to more of a leadership position in this area, like some of our neighbors are doing in the other communities. And my final comment is I would like to speak for the trees. The situation Ann described for the children at Dallas Lane, where you have this flanks of 4 or 5 people with blowers, and then you have the big push-behind blower. Yeah, that's negative for little kids, seriously. But who it's really negative for are the insects, the pollinators, the squirrels, the rabbits. When this flanks comes, it's like, World War II. They're not staying around for this. With all the leaves, they're taking off and they're going. And when they go, the health of our trees and our woods and our animal life is going downhill. And we end up paying for that by having to add fertilizers and other such things. And we get the invasive species that come in that will grow under those circumstances. And our natural pollinators are gone. And that's what we have to look for. And thank you for considering the Climate Smart Community Program. All of that information will lead in the same direction of reducing gas leaf blowers. Thank you.
Nikki Coddington, 3 Jaffrey Park. First question, point of clarification. You mentioned the fire department needs a new boiler? Is that what I heard you say?
I'm sorry. The fire department, it's part of their monthly report that they're looking to try to get approval to replace the boiler.
Isn't that the building that we're considering changing?
Eventually.
Okay. When you raised the boiler.
What it is, they're working to get it completed before the fall winter season.
Oh, okay. Anyway, there's this new movement in the state towards air source heat pumps and alternate non-fossil fuel sources of heat, of heating and cooling, and mini splits like that are becoming. There are a lot more availability now and a lot more efficient, and so I just replacing something that needs replacing right before, soon before you're going to change the whole building. I don't know. I don't. I'm sorry, I'm really confusing. But
No, I understand what you're saying. I just don't have any more information than what I gave you. And this is part of capital planning and projects, so.
right, I would encourage them to look into if there's any clean energy sources of what they're needing to, their heating needs. So, anyway, back to leaf blowers. So I also want to thank the O'Hare Center and George for sponsoring that demonstration. And it occurred to me when you guys were talking earlier about reviving the Lebanon Movement Program and making new signs, which I think is a great idea because I think it's gotten less attention in the last couple of years. In addition to the landscapers, many of us homeowners maintain our own lawns and yards. And in Jaffrey Park, for example, many of us have electric equipment. So an idea would be to, as we're promoting Love 'em and Leave 'em, and we're promoting homeowners to explore electric yard care equipment, is to have kind of block parties of where people could bring out their own electric lawnmower and leaf blower and hedge clippers and whatever else that's battery operated. So anyway.
Excellent, thank you. Anybody else?
Can I just follow up on Ricky's comment? Has there been any looking at alternate heating cooling systems for the firehouse, or is that just?
I don't know. We hired an engineer to do the calculations about the load calculations, but I don't know what specific equipment they're looking at.
Right, because I mean, I know we have, it sounds like we're, talking about, from what I understand, it's still a fairly unknown future as far as how far out it is before we have an alternate to that building. But it may actually be worthwhile to spend some time investigating whether there are some alternative heating systems that would not be cost prohibitive to slip them in. 'Cause I think right now that's probably a radiator-based system. Is that? I imagine it is right now, but.
It's air, I think, but I don't know.
Oh, it's there?
I think so.
With a boiler?
Thought so. I could be wrong. I don't know. I can't picture the
That would be.
radiators, but maybe there are some in the walls.
I'll find out the details.
Thank you. This is worth doing a little bit of looking into this. Thank you for bringing that up, Nikki.
Anybody else? Otherwise, we'll move to review of action items.
So there's now two items. One is, I made a note about the leaf blower courtesy email that could be sent out. You circulated that earlier today.
I have an update to that. I'll send you the final version because
That's fine. Yes.
I got some input from other people on it.
Yep. And then the boiler question that just came up.
I will make a motion to adjourn. If I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.